Hello Booktube, and welcome to my channel and my first video. Well, it's not the first time I've tried to make this video. I've tried it on my laptop, which is all fuzzy and useless, even though it's only a few months old, less than 5. Tried it on an old phone, which had a better camera than this one does, but then it froze partway through, and now I can't even get the phone to work now. So, this is try 4, I think it is, because I tried filming as well without seeing myself on the screen, because I thought it would be easier to talk just looking at the camera. But, however, I do realize now, because it's a small screen, I have my reading glasses on, so everything beyond arm's length is blurred, which is only helpful when I'm looking at myself. Anyway, let's get to the Booktuber, newbie Booktuber challenge. Not challenge, questions. I don't like the term newbie, but that's, I'll call it new Booktuber questions. And why did you start this channel? Well, I've been thinking of it for a while, but it's recently been prompted by Mark at Richardson Reads and Jason at Byways in Bookland. Because I've been posting a few books, photos of a few books on my Twitter account and Instagram, and they suggested that I should do this, so it's given me a little kick up the pants to do it. But I've been thinking, as I say, for a while, because I discovered Booktube, it must be just over 3 years ago now, when I was recovering from a bad infection of cellulitis in my leg. So I was in the hospital for quite a while, and then at home for quite a while also. So I was bored one day. I started searching YouTube, and I was reading some essays of Umberto Eco, so I just thought I'd put Umberto Eco in YouTube. And what did come up was him strolling through his labyrinthine library. And I like that, but there was really I don't think, any commentary on that. It was just him walking through for a couple minutes, and I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. I'd like to see more of this. So I searched more, and then I started to find booktubers. Usually always young adults, nothing really stuff that I'm interested in reading, but it was interesting to watch and seeing what was happening. And then I persisted off and on, and then I started to find other booktubers that had more adult, what I would call adult books and nonfiction. So I've been watching those for the last about 1.5 years now, 2 years, commenting occasionally. But that's why I've decided to sort of jump in here to show people what I do. And what are some of the fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? Well, I don't know about fun. The unique part, and that will have to be up to the viewers, people who watch this. However, I think like anybody who collects books and has a collection, it is a unique collection. Each of us will curate that collection and collect books and put books side by side on a shelf that probably have never really been put side by side before, for whatever reason, whether it's a subject that they're collecting, an author that they're collecting, a period in history, or period in literature, or fiction, poetry, whatever. Chances are their collection is unique, like everybody else's, and I find that interesting to find out what they have paired and what they have put together in their minds and on their shelves. And what are you most excited for about this new channel? Well, I would say it's a couple things. It's to I guess get in touch with other people that have similar interests as mine. On a more face-to-face basis, I guess, because then I can go into more detail about the books that I like and love, and then I can hear if anybody else is interested in those type of things, and learn more too. That's the big thing, because every time I watch a Booktube video, generally, there's a lot of times a book that I go, oh, I don't know about that one. I want to get that. Or, oh yes, I remember, I've seen that before. I never really looked at it closely. I think I will now. And hopefully I can do that for somebody else as well. Now, why do I love reading? Well, it passes the time a lot of times, but more deeply, it's to learn information, because I do read a lot of nonfiction. And I went to university for archaeology, so I had to read in order to learn and study. I read to learn other people's opinions, and you get a lot of that through fiction, because you get to read situations and people that you may never ever encounter in your life, but you get to see a viewpoint, a different viewpoint, and it expands your viewpoint. And in some ways it's like you're traveling, but you're traveling in your chair. You're not moving from where you are. You're traveling in your mind. And I also love science fiction, so that even just adds more to it, of the traveling aspect of your mind. What book or series got you into reading? Well, I'm not sure. I know it was when I was young and in school, probably around maybe 8, 10 years old, I would assume. And I'm also assuming it was probably Farley Mowat, a Canadian author, which was popular at the time in the early 70s, early mid 70s, when I was going to school there. And what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? Well, I've generally have done as the time goes on, and I'm sure there'll be more questions as I go along. And if they ask questions of me, since I've got a channel now, I'm sure that'll prompt some other questions back. What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? Well, talking to myself into the screen will be one that will take a little bit of time to get used to. Technical aspects, if any, come up, like with the phone that I've had, that it died, so I just have to do something else. So it's a bit time consuming when things like that happen, because I'm not tech orientated that much. And I don't have I don't want to spend a lot of money on equipment either, cameras. I might do eventually, but not at the moment. And I suppose time occasionally, because I do work. I'm off on annual leave at the moment, but I do normally work, and that might be a bit challenging to fit this in with other reading and writing that I do in the evenings, but I'll try to do my best. When did I start reading? Well, as I say, probably when I was 8, 10 years old. I don't remember exactly. I didn't read that prolifically until I was probably mid to late teens, and I think I really started heavily when I quit school early for a while when I was 15. Then I went back when I was 19. So I was put in when I went back with other students that were several years younger than me. I did skip a couple grades because of my age and some tests I took. But I had an English teacher that we did one book, and like you'd read a book and then over a week or two, and then you do some multiple choice questions. But it was such a simple book and so short. I read it in the evening, and I said the next day, I said, can I do the test? And he said, yeah. So I did the test, did fine on it. And then he says, oh, well, did you find it very easy read? I said, yeah, it was a bit simple. And then it was coming up on, I think it was spring break at some point. So he took me to the book room that they had, and it was mostly grade 12, 13 books that he gave me. Like, he just stacked me up with about 15 or 20 classics, basically. At that point, they were classics. I'd read a few of them, but I thought I'd read them again, and so I just delved in and read all of them, and that's where I started, I think, to really dig into reading when I was probably in my late teens. even though I had read prior to that sparingly, but it became sort of more of a mission, I suppose, at that time. Where do I read? Now, mostly exactly where you see me, in my chair here. I don't read in bed much anymore. I do occasionally, but I find it a little cumbersome now, with old age and creaking bones and muscles. So mostly here. If I do have to go out somewhere, then yeah, I'll take a book with me, something that's light and airy that I can read with other noise going around. And what kind of books do you like to read? Well, I think we covered a little bit of that. Mostly nonfiction, with a lot of classics and fiction. Nonfiction-wise is... I used to read a lot of film, and I still got a bit of film, and I do read that occasionally. Silent film, classic film, and I mean by classic film, pre-1960. And I used to have a huge collection in Canada. When I came here to the UK, I only brought a few books, and I only have one of those left. So I've been here now, and for over 14 years, and I've recollected a lot of stuff that I did have, and then I started delving into areas that I didn't have much of, and I've expanded collection in those areas. And one area that I've really gone out on, because I enjoy it, is books about books. And there's two bookcases here behind me and to the side that are books about books. Essays is a huge thing for me, and it's always been, but I've been lucky enough to get collections, something like, I guess, Steve Donahue's Brattle Bookshop. There's one here where I live. It's a good shop, and they do have these discount books, £1, £2, and £5. So I've been able to find a lot of stuff, forgotten writers that I've read before, or that, this looks like pretty good essays. So I've been buying those over the years, and I've got 4 bookcases now of essays that I delve into every so often and reread others. History-wise, well, I have an interest in history of all ages and all places, which makes it a bit difficult. But recently, I've been trying to keep it down to British history from the Civil War to probably including the Second World War, I suppose, up to the Second World War, but usually up to the beginnings of the First World War. And I like the 20s as well, either here in the UK or in North America and in the States, and other places that were going through similar things in the 20s, Paris, Berlin. So it's very wide ranging, but I try to curb it in because I don't have that much space or time to read. But if I do find a book on a subject that I don't have, or something that I do want to read, I will definitely get it and read it if I can. Poetry, I read a lot of poetry because I write poetry. Fiction-wise, I don't read too much contemporary fiction. The main reason is I get excited a lot of times about a book, and then I'm usually disappointed a lot of times for various reasons. But I still do. Science fiction has been a huge thing for me. Not in the recent 20 years, but I used to read science fiction like crazy. I used to read, at times 2-3 books a day. They were short books, less than 200 pages or just over 200 pages you could run through. And to digest stories, I used to have hundreds and hundreds of analogs. And most of Asimov, when it started, magazine of science fiction and fantasy, just you name it, some of the old pulps too, and I just devoured this stuff. But now I do want to get back to reading some of it, but anyway, I think I'm going on a little too much here, and we can discuss more of this in future videos. But anyway, that's it for me for my newbie Booktuber tag. I'll see you soon.